Hi, I'm Renee Devereaux with the Club for Creative Expression. And again, as I always do, I want to bring information to the residents of the village about keeping our mental health. We're all living longer, but there's no point in living longer if we don't have our cognitive faculties, if we're not healthy, if we're not productive. So every month I bring to you an authority on the subject. And today I am thrilled to bring a special woman in my life. I've known her for many years, and I am so proud to be introducing Dr. Kristen Willemeyer to you. She is a research scientist in neurodegenerative disease, and she was a recipient of the prestigious NIH. It's a fellowship from the National Institute of Mental Health to study molecular mechanisms underlying Parkinson's disease. She she served as director of neuroimaging research for the Amen Clinics, and she has explored the role of brain SPECT imaging in clinical practice. She has a PhD from the University of California, and she did her postdoctoral fellowship in Department of Neurology at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. So please let me introduce to you Dr. Kristen Willemeyer. Thank you for coming. I am just so delighted to have you here. I can't tell you. I've missed you because I haven't seen you in, about a year?
It's been about a year, and I have to say thank you for such a lovely introduction. Oh. You are just such a beautiful person. I adore you.
Oh, thank
and
you.
I feel so blessed to be here to talk to you today.
Well, I couldn't think of a better authority on the subject, and I had been reluctant to ask for you to join me because I know you come a long way.
Aww.
And I'm so grateful that you were willing to participate.
I would travel anywhere for you, Renee.
Bless you.
I really appreciate this opportunity, and there's a lot that we need to share, right?
Yes, there is, because right now, probably what is on everyone's mind is staying sharp, maintaining the brain. We look at our older years as a time to have fun and to relax and to just do what we want to do. The thing is that we don't always prepare for that unexpected bit of failure of mental cognition.
Yeah.
And so please tell us, because one of my most pertinent questions is it possible to reverse or at least slow down brain aging?
I'm so happy to be here to talk on this subject. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've been a neuroscientist for 2 decades now, so 20 years, and I have a profound love and appreciation for the brain. And the one thing that I started to realize as I worked in neurodegenerative diseases, back in from 1998 to 2008 was when I was studying Parkinson's disease and more the molecular mechanism. So I was in a traditional laboratory setting over at UCLA, and I had people who had Parkinson's who used to ask me, do we have a cure? Is there anything that I could do to help slow down this disease? So it was 20 years ago where I really started to look and go, this is a great question. Why don't we start to investigate the role of nutrient therapies? What kind of tangible things can we do now to slow the progression of a degenerative disease? Well, and we can get into some of that, but what I learned is our brain. So when we're born, from age 0 to age 25, your brain is in this period of growth and development. So the brain is not fully mature until you're 25 years of age. And that's sort of
Really?
fascinating, right?
Yes,
Because
it
we
is.
allow children to drive cars on the road at age 16, and they don't even have their full development of their brain. In that capacity, you want the frontal lobes to work well. So the frontal lobes help guide our decisions and allow us to understand consequences of our action. So that's why we used to always say to parents, please continue to guide your children well past 16 or 18 years of age. Really help guide their decisions.
They
and
really
mentor
do
them.
need the help.
Right, until they're 25. But I think, and why I share this is after 25, we kind of reach a plateau of continued neural development and neural growth. And by the time we're at age 30, you actually can start to have the loss of neurons. And most people don't understand that there's estimates that by that time we're starting to lose about 80,000 neurons per day.
Oh my word.
Now, when you have a brain, so brain weighs about 3 pounds, and it has between 85 to 100 billion neurons. So that's actually a lot of cells in the brain that make estimates of 100 trillion connections. So you essentially have this little supercomputer that weighs 3 pounds, and it's helping you to make good decisions and store memories and make connections with people. I mean, it's a pretty extraordinary organ. But when you start to learn that the process of degeneration can start as early as your 30s, it shouldn't be surprising that, classic neurodegeneration, the symptoms of it tend to start at age 65. That's when we start to see the presence of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, unless you have a genetic form of the disorder.
Right, when then it'll demonstrate earlier.
So that could happen. So the reason why thinking about your brain health is important, it's as important at age 20 as it is at age 40, as it is at age 60, as it is at age 90. Anything that you start doing today through the foods you eat and the nutrients you take and the sleep you get, very simple lifestyle changes can dramatically change the trajectory of your life. So if you're diagnosed with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, so by the time you have a diagnosis, unfortunately, because the disease has been progressing, for Alzheimer's, we think it starts 2 decades before you have a symptom. So if you're diagnosed at 65, the degenerative processes were actually starting
About
could
40,
be as early as age 45. So I'm really about empowering people and sending the empowering message. And we've done a lot of research in this area, and to tell people that the choices you're making today, the foods you're eating, the things you're drinking, and the nutrients that you're taking now add up. So every day these little small changes can literally change the trajectory of whether you have a degenerative disease or not. Now, some of them are genetically determined. So if you have a mutation in a gene, that's a different pathway. But for most of us, slowing down that brain aging process is very possible.
All right. And now, when you get somebody, or you're working with someone who is, 60, 65, there's a reluctance to make changes. They feel that, it's too late now to reverse anything. This is the way it is. Consequently, a lot of people accept what they feel or what they understand is the inevitability of decay.
Right, and that's a belief system.
It is.
And you and I would agree on that. Unfortunately, we have this belief system that as we get older, we're going to age. And it's true, right? I just gave you sound facts that there's a process of cell loss. But there's examples of many people who are living to 90 and 100 years old that still have their mental faculties about them they're extraordinary examples.
Yes.
And these are people that we need to emulate. And I've always told patients that we've worked with, and I've had the good fortune of working in a clinical setting where we did functional neuroimaging, so we could see deficits in the brain, sometimes before people had symptoms, and we were able to show that with diet and lifestyle, we could reverse those changes. So we published on it. So I really want people to understand that the things that you hear about lifestyle and dietary changes are absolutely 100% the way to go. And when we think about, can we change the trajectory or risk factors for Alzheimer's? Absolutely.
Good. It's not going to take another 20 years to see the benefit, right?
But yeah, I mean, you can wait, but remember, I tell people every step you take today, right? If you woke up today, there's a certain suite of nutrients that I think everybody needs to just keep their brain functioning in a healthy way. So imagine every habit you do today that's over the course of weeks, months, years, decades.
It's cumulative.
It really is.
It's cumulative.
And we see, so say for example, something as simple as omega-3 fatty acids.
Yes.
Your brain, the dry weight of your brain is 60% fat. So we need these critical omega-3 fatty acids to help rebuild the cellular membranes.
And so what is the recommended dosage, for example, in the omega-3s?
For omega-3s, pretty much for everyone, we could use 1 gram. So 1 gram of a high quality omega-3 fatty acid. I love people getting it through food first. So if you have salmon, fatty fish, olive oil, avocados, walnuts, so all of these things, getting it directly from foods. But a lot of people are deficient in omega-3 fatty acids. And the reason why I know this is when I worked in a clinical setting, we did lab work on every patient. And there's an omega-3 fatty acid test that you can have done.
Oh, really?
And I highly encourage people to get that test done. You can see where your levels are at. Then 1 gram everybody could use, more therapeutic doses. So if you've had a traumatic brain injury, chemo brain, any sort of brain trauma, we might have to increase that to 2 to 3 grams, all the way up to 5 grams. So, but it
that
really,
much.
Oh, absolutely. But the best approach is to work with your physician and say, I'd really like to know where my omega-3 fatty acid status is currently, and get on a regimen, and then go back and retest. I mean, I think everybody should have their labs done annually.
Absolutely. No, I do believe in that. And so what are the top risk factors associating with brain aging?
Oh, there's many risk factors. That's such a great question. So age is a risk factor, unfortunately, and that's just normal, right? As we age, we're at greater risk for Alzheimer's and dementia. And you probably talked about this on other shows. I mean, currently we have 5 million people in the U.S. living with Alzheimer's. It's expected to triple by 2050, but we've got 50 million people worldwide living with dementia. And as you age after 65, the risk factor, by the time you're, I believe it's 80, your risk goes up to 50%.
Oh, wow.
So you've got age.
That's stunning.
Right. Second, you have gender. So it's really fascinating that women tend to get diagnosed with Alzheimer's more than men.
Oh, really?
And that's why I really want to speak to women and make sure that they start these preventative strategies early. Part of the reason they think is that women live longer. So women who make it, I say if you make it to the age of 90, which I just set as a standard, I think at 90 is when you can officially call yourself a senior. So when I work with patients, they're like, oh, I'm 65. I go, oh, you're so young. Well, you got plenty of time. Talk to me when you're 90. So at 90, 75% of that population is women. And I feel that, that Alzheimer's and dementia diagnosis just higher in women. So if that's true and we're outliving men, then I think we really need to get ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
Right, and start taking protective measures. So obesity.
Oh, another risk
Obesity
factor.
is one of the #1 epidemics. It's an epidemic. I mean, 50% of people are overweight or obese. It's probably higher. And obesity is something that we can control.
And you see, now here's something that distresses me.
Okay.
That when people are obese, the first thing they want to do is diet and cut out fat. And that's the very nutrient that we're just talking about.
You
see.
want to have
You want to have the
fats.
healthy fat.
Right. I know the fat's always the one to get cut out. We have to think about the sugars and the processed foods that we're taking into our body. So really, eating a healthy diet is not hard. You want to think about fruits and vegetables, which
Right.
have phytochemicals. I mean, really, I think a plant-based diet is one of the best ways to go. So you have plenty of fruits and vegetables, 5 servings a day if possible. I was reading statistics. I think, most Americans, we're lucky if they have 1 serving of fruit or 1 serving of vegetable a day. So I like to tell people 2 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetable. A serving's usually a cup. And that's not hard to get.
No,
you
it's
could
not.
get that in a green drink in the morning and be done with your nutrients. But your body is in a state of oxidation, and oxidation is aging.
That is the
Yeah, and so the smartest
that's
way
the
to
key.
reduce oxidation is to get these phytonutrients from plants. It's really one of the easiest things to do. So have more of a plant-based diet, moderate fat and moderate protein intake. The thing with protein is that it can be inflammatory sometimes in the body.
Correct.
Meats can be. So I prefer people to try and have maybe 1 serving, if they like meats, have 1 serving of a sort of meat-based protein and get the protein from vegetables.
Correct.
I think that's a really sound eating strategy. But when we come to thinking about obesity, people need to understand that you want your body mass index to be
That's the
25 or under. And it's very easy to find out what your body mass index or BMI is. You can go on the computer, just type in body mass index. It'll ask for your weight and it'll ask for your height, and it'll spit out a number. That number should be 25 or lower. And I will guarantee you 25 is actually very lean. So it's a very lean person. So when we started doing studies on weight, we did it in the clinic. We did it on a group of NFL players, as well as we were running a healthy brain study. We just wanted to look at how many people with healthy brains are normal weight versus obese or overweight. And I'm going to tell you, a lot more people were overweight or obese than they realized. So I think the first part is realize that if your BMI is over 25, you really need to take action and bring that down. And the reason why is fat is inflammation in the body.
Absolutely.
And your brain. So when we were running this healthy brain study, we decided to go, okay, we've collected 100 people who have very healthy looking brains, that had a healthy lifestyle, no history of brain injury, no history of Alzheimer's, no psychiatric history. We scan their brains. So we look at their brains compared to people who are overweight or obese. And we saw low perfusion or low blood flow in the frontal lobes. And the frontal lobes, really, we call that the CEO of our brain. So it allows us to make good decisions. And when our frontal lobes aren't working optimally, we're less apt to make good decisions. And it's also the area of focus and attention. So it's about concentration, attention, decision making.
Are you speaking of the limbic system?
That's deeper.
That's deeper.
That's deeper. This is more, think of the front part of your brain, of the frontal lobes. And to think, healthy people who are overweight or obese had lower perfusion in the front part of the brain, these frontal lobes. So that's just an illustration to show you one very simple thing you can do to slow down brain aging is to really get on some kind of nutritional program so that you can get your body mass index to 25. 25, it's usually between 19 to 25.
So very important to get that weight down and get off the wrong kind of fat, which is the saturated fat.
Saturated fats, the omega-6. I mean, most of the standard American diet is pro-inflammatory. So
exactly, the sugar and the fat.
The sugar.
And the grilling.
And the grilling. Oh,
the grilling.
You could get into a whole other thing with the carcinogens of the grilling. Oh man, you're going to take away all the fun. How are they?
And that's why a lot of people don't want to even talk to me.
I know, but you know what? I will tell you the beautiful thing about losing weight, so your BMI is 25 or under, so you're actually in a healthy state, is that you feel better, you look better.
You look better.
You look better. All of a sudden you're like, hey, this is pretty easy. I can do my green drink in the morning and I feel good. You know, once you get to that point, I find people actually are happy. Sometimes, as you say, people get resigned. Maybe they've gotten to a weight, they have no idea how to get to a healthy weight. And this is where sometimes you need the help of a coach or a trainer.
Right. And they actually don't think they have the discipline, or they don't want to access that.
Well, the discipline, it's interesting about the discipline. So weight loss starts in the brain.
Yes.
And so you talk about brain aging and being able to make good decisions. And our frontal lobes, if they're functioning well, tell us when we need to walk away from the table, not have that evening cocktail. It allows you to just go, you know, maybe this isn't the best decision. So
it's all part and parcel of the same thing, isn't it?
It's all tied in.
So it's fascinating.
If people are struggling with weight, that's why I always recommend, you know, working with a counselor, a coach, somebody at a fitness center. I actually taught a weight loss group at our clinic for 6 years straight. I first taught professional athletes how to lose weight. It was so successful that we just rolled it out in our clinic, and every Tuesday I'd run a group. And I had everyone from people with psychiatric issues who really had trouble regulating their eating behaviors to people who were healthy and just wanted to lose that extra 10 pounds. And I realized it was the weekly meeting with me, learning new information.
Exactly.
Everyone was able to lose weight. Some people lost 60 pounds in a year who had never thought they could lose the weight. So when we talk about how to slow down brain aging, get your weight under control. You want to make sure that you also are not diabetic. So pre-diabetes and diabetes are risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, because when you're diabetic, the issue is you can't get fuel into your cells. You have this process called insulin resistance that happens, and in order to be healthy, we need nourishment to get into the cells. So even, again, this is why you need blood work done annually, so you know. We always say, you
need to know.
You can't change what you don't measure. So you want to go in and do a fasting blood glucose and look at what your hemoglobin A1C is, which tells us how much sugar is circulating in your blood for a 2-month period of time, and get those numbers in the healthy range. And that's actually going to tell you about how much sugar you're consuming. That actually gives us a key. So, you know, we're going to get diabetes, pre-diabetes treated. We're going to make sure you're lean. And then we also want to make sure your blood pressure is in a normal range, because elevated blood pressure over time can also impact blood flow to your brain.
Exactly. So here we go again.
There's a form of vascular dementia. So when
not getting the nutrition, not getting the blood to the cells.
Blood flow to the brain. And one other really important risk factor that I feel like I should talk about is you want to get your homocysteine levels measured. So homocysteine is an amino acid that's in the body, and it's made from B vitamins. So one of the best modifiable risk factors for Alzheimer's disease is making sure you get B vitamins.
I also realized that you are the spokesperson for a supplement that will help fight inflammation. Is that not so?
It's actually a brain-directed nutrient. Yeah, so I'm the national ambassador for Cogevity Advanced Brain Nutrition, and this particular formulation was created by scientists out of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, the Salk Biological Institute, and UCLA Mary Easton Center for Alzheimer's Disease.
Well, I want my hands on that.
Oh my gosh. The reason why this is such a unique product is it has 6 ingredients that everybody could use to help support your brain health. And the goal is, by taking this product early, right, before you have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, each of these nutrients really help to nourish and fortify the brain.
Exactly. Well, it's all about prevention, which is what we're talking about.
It's about prevention. What's really interesting, so it has a form of curcumin that is bioavailable. So curcumin comes from the root of the turmeric plant.
Correct.
And we hear about it, so it's the Indian spice that, you know, if you've heard, people in India have a 4-time lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. So this curcumin helps to bring down inflammation in the body. Most of the curcumin that you see that's on the shelves of the supermarkets is quickly taken into the body and metabolized and degraded. This form of curcumin can cross the blood-brain barrier.
Okay, so there is a difference, and you see, this is one of the things that I really like to point out to people. The quality is important, and not all curcumin is the same. So can you elaborate on that, please?
Absolutely. Well, so this is why you like to have research behind the particular nutrients that you take into your body.
Correct.
This is why I like science-backed, and you know, I've done a lot of work with nutraceuticals and brain function, and I've published on it, and so I've sort of had firsthand knowledge of watching which ones do something, which ones don't, are they effective, how long do you take them. So that's part of the reason why, you know, I'm with Congevity, because the curcumin, as I was saying, can cross the blood-brain barrier. It actually has a lipid that's around it that allows it to cross. And what's really fascinating about curcumin, not only does it bring inflammation down in the brain, but research has shown that it binds to the plaques that form in Alzheimer's. And studies in mouse models have actually shown that it can help to reduce plaque size and help to clear the plaques. So if you think about it, why do the people in India have a lower incidence of Alzheimer's? So they make curcumin, they actually heat it up with ghee, the butter ghee, and that's probably what's allowing it to get into the brain and bring down, potentially bring down the plaque formation, which is why India is just touted as this wonderful place where they don't get degenerative diseases at the same rate as the US. So you've got this incredible curcumin. This product has omega-3 fatty acids, so we just talked about the importance of those. Vitamin D. So vitamin D is important for your mental health.
Right, and it is a hormone. It's not a vitamin.
It's a hormone.
Right.
It is. It's a hormone that has many functions in your body, and it's very important for people who have depression, tend to have low levels of vitamin D. People at higher risk for Alzheimer's tend to have low levels of vitamin D. So what I tell people is get your vitamin D levels checked, and you want to be in the optimized range.
Correct.
So you go look at a lab test, and between 30 and 100 nanograms per mil seems to be the range, and you'll have a patient go, oh, I'm at 30, I'm healthy. But those of us in the brain health world know optimized is 60 to 80. So you want to be taking enough vitamin D, and for some people that might be between 5,000 international units and 10,000 international units. Most people, if you look at nutrients, supplements, they'll have 800 IU, very low levels.
Kristen,
you get it. Am I preaching to the choir?
No, we could talk for hours, I know that. And yet, I need to wrap up.
Oh my God, wrap up already?
Yes, and we haven't covered any of the topics that I had in mind, because I love you. So I need to have you come back.
I'd be delighted to.
I hope you will be doing that, because we do need to cover the PTSD and the impact of trauma on the brain and the emotional.
I would love that.
Would you please?
Absolutely, yes.
Because I know that, well, that's really an important piece.
Yeah,
we need
for
to
our
cover.
Veterans.
Exactly,
for
veterans.
all the national disasters.
Your father just passed, and but again, I want to thank you so much for watching. I want to thank you for being here, and again, the Club for Creative Expression, wanting you to stay healthy and expressing your beautiful self. Bye.